how far are you into your journey? How long have you been sober for now?
So it's coming up for 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, and I have to say that, it's funny, the first year of not drinking is you do a lot of looking internally. You do a lot of trying to work out why you were drinking, what's who you are without the drink, what you can. You're left with a bit of a hole that you have to fill, and you try and work out what to fill that hole with. So you do a lot of thinking and a lot of sort of agonizing. And I'm so excited about for you, because you're coming up for like year 2, is, the second year is when you really, I think your life really starts changing, because, you're in a position where you've got, loads more energy, loads more time, you're much, by then, you've been through all that angst and sort of, self-analysis, and you feel much stronger and much more aware of who you are. And people in their second year sober often do the most extraordinary things. I mean, it's like you and your podcast, and for me it was writing. So, I first published the Sober Diaries, and now I've written a novel, which is something I've always wanted to do. But, I never got round to it, and I was always too scared. And that's the other thing, you quit drinking and you think, God, if I can do that, if I can cope with all these things, if I can tour with a band for a year without drinking, I can do anything. It turns you into a superhero. So you forget your fear. So all the fears I had about rejection and not being able to get published and wasting my time and all, I thought, fuck it. I might as well just go for it and see what happens. So
the podcast was a product of trying to be creative out here. Like I needed some kind of creative outlet. I'm sure that happened to you. So you stopped. Back to your blog for 1 minute. You just started writing it, and then you just published it on like a
Blogger.
What was it called? On
Blogger. Yeah.
So you just, did you categorize it? Like you didn't publicize it, but did you write like self-help, alcohol, so people could find it?
Yeah, I mean, and most people, because I was anonymous, so I called myself Sober Mummy, and I was really worried about anyone who knew me finding it. So I couldn't publicize it on social media or anything like most people do with their blogs. So it was literally, I was found by people typing into Google, am I an alcoholic? Am I drinking too much? How to stop drinking? And, and I gradually went up the Google search engine, because more and more people found me that way. So
it gives you see the growth. Like I liken to putting a podcast out, to releasing an album every week. That's how I feel right now, because no one knows me. I'm just some schmuck on tour, but it's been building, and it's been a lot of fun. And obviously it starts with your first listener, and there's somebody listening, right? There's somebody reading.
I remember the first time somebody, I saw a page view come up on my blog. Ooh. I was like, yay, somebody's reading. And then it was me.
Well, I probably have at least 20 of my own listens. Yeah, sure. Because, I rarely listen back to them. It's fun. I'm trying to grow with it. So if you can already tell, I'm no journalist. I'm just trying to build something, and I'm trying to educate people as we move through this thing, and it's given me an opportunity to be creative. This has been the best part of the journey, because now I'm obviously clear and clean-headed, and I'm not hazy and all the rest of it. And your days off are now filled with the first modules that I was doing on the podcast were about coffee and trying to find the best coffee in the world. And then I switched to music, and then I switched to travel, and here we are in life. And it gives me now purpose to design these things out and give me something to do on these days off, where it used to be, what are we doing? What time are we going to the bar? Okay, we're just staying at the hotel bar. We're doing this. Now it's like, I can go to a bar, but I'd rather go to an obscure coffee shop in the middle of the Scottish Highlands and find out how they get their coffee and where they do it. And that's...
Yeah, it's funny, because when you drink a lot, when drinking is your thing, you become very lazy about what you do with your time, because the shortcut is always, we'll have a few drinks. And when you quit drinking, you have to find different ways of getting out of your head, different ways of relaxing, of having fun, of sort of, So since I quit, I've been, I'm much more inventive about how I spend my free time. So I go to the theatre a huge amount, which I stopped doing. I do art galleries. I sort of do, I do expeditions. I do all sorts of things that I'd stopped doing because, it was just easier just to go to a bar. So, it makes your life much broader and much richer. And coming back to your thing about creativity, creativity and addiction are really linked in many ways. So, I sort of think creative people often have very active brains. You're sort of, you constantly have stuff going around in your head, and that can be really exhausting. And we often drink because it's a way of numbing those, numbing all that stuff. And when you quit drinking, you need to find other ways of making your brain go still. And people talk about, meditation and mindfulness. I don't know about you, I found meditation really hard.
I haven't tried it yet, but I listen to a lot of Howard Stern, and he's done it, and all these other people come on there and they talk about it. I haven't quite got there yet.
It's tricky, but you know what? Doing something creative does the same thing. It helps your mind still, and it stops all those thoughts going loopy. And it's sort of, it's a form of mindfulness that is sort of, much easier and much more productive than just trying to meditate. So I find people either write or they paint or, they listen to music. Music is a fabulous way of getting the same sort of dopamine hit that you used to get from alcohol.
Describe the dopamine side of it to people that aren't aware.
Yeah, see, when I quit drinking, I did a whole load of research into why it was I got into this situation, and a lot of it is down to the dopamine. So the reason we drink is because when you drink, your brain releases dopamine, and dopamine makes you feel good, and so then your brain thinks, oh, that was nice, I'd like some more of that. So your subconscious tells you to have another drink, and the problem is that when you drink quite a lot over a long period of time, your brain stops making dopamine by itself because it gets the dopamine hit sort of every time you drink. So it reduces the amount of dopamine that it produces naturally. So that means that you feel rather down and depressed when you're not drinking because your brain's not producing dopamine anymore, which is why they say alcohol is a depressant. And the only way you feel happy again is when you drink. So you think, oh, alcohol is the only thing that's making me happy. Actually, alcohol was the thing that made you sad in the first place. So you're only trying to fix a problem that the alcohol created. So when you quit drinking, your brain takes a while to readjust, but eventually it starts making that dopamine again by itself. So you end up feeling sort of much more positive about life in general.
Can you pull that dopamine from, I guess, maybe from the gym or from music, or I guess
there's a number of ways you can get a dopamine hit which are much more healthy than drinking. I mean, actually, the easy way is sugar, so cake, and so a lot of people when they quit drinking start eating sweet stuff. Obviously, that's not a great thing to do all the time, but once in a while, hell, who cares? But yeah, exercise is gives you a dopamine hit. Sex, obviously. Coffee, and music, dancing. Sort of form anything creative has the same.
I'm finding that's what's happening with me. I mean, the gym a lot more. But the creative is like I want to find new ways to create, and put some stuff out there. And again, I'm not as concerned with people knowing who I am. What I want to do is create product that is educating, or at least create something that's like an interesting journey for the listener and watcher, because I've got the YouTube channel now as well. So it's one of those things where I want people to learn something from it, and that has been giving me quite the rush. Over Christmas, I had people messaging me, I want to, buy my husband this coffee maker. Strangers that were listening to the podcast, and what do you think of this? And people asking me my advice on it, which was, what? It was just the funniest thing. And then on the music side of things, I actually had some pretty heavy episodes of people dealing with cancer, which you had to go through, obviously, and some loss of people that in our music industry that really affected people. And I actually had people reaching out to me that had to pull their car over weeping.
Oh.
And I was like, I don't know how to respond to that outside of the fact that I guess I've created something that touched somebody in some capacity. So it did give me a bit of I have to keep doing this then. I have to keep creating.
You know what? So much of social media is about people showing perfect lives that aren't real and that just make everyone else feel a bit more miserable. Because we look at other people's Instagram feeds and Facebook feeds and we think, why isn't our life like that? Why isn't everything so perfect? So I think doing something like you do, where actually, you interview people about the tough sides of life, and the things that aren't easy and aren't perfect, are really helpful, because it makes people realize that, everyone has bad stuff going on in their lives and we're all just muddling along and trying to cope. And, and actually, it's not like an Instagram feed. That's not real life.
No, and I want to keep the episodes relatively light, but I also, sometimes you just meet people that have that we need to have a serious discussion, and a lot of people can gravitate to it. I know that I love a good funny comedy episode of some things, and I also like to settle in and learn a bit about people along the way. So thanks for stopping by, friends, to the Brenton on Tour podcast channel on YouTube. Coffee, music, travel, life, all of those things. One page, lots of guests, lots of chatter. We talk about all of it. If you like it, subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment. I'll get back to you. Thanks, friends. See you next time.